Welcome back to another exciting episode of Optometry Unleashed. I'm your host, Dr. Trevor Miranda, and today I'm thrilled to introduce a guest who lives and breathes the optical world, transforming how teams learn, grow, and lead. Our guest today is the one and only Joyce VanRooyen. Joyce's journey began over 35 years ago, working side by side with her father in an optical lab. Since then, she's gone on to do it all, managing high-end dispensaries, serving as a professional educator at Hoya, and launching innovative training solutions with her venture, I Speak Consulting. For the last 14 years, Joyce is called I Recommend Home, where she leads as the manager of learning and development. As the longest-serving team member, Joyce has been at the center of fostering clinical excellence and transforming optometry clinics from the inside. You can always count on Joyce to bring a fresh perspective to independent optometry. With her passion for team training, leadership development, thriving work culture, and an unmistakable flair for fashion. Her love of Fluevog shoes is legendary. And to top it all off, by night, Joyce rocks out as a bass-playing rock and roll powerhouse. I'm excited for today's conversation as we unleash the strategies for maximizing your team's training and driving success in your clinic. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our friend. She'll dress you up and take you dancing, Joyce VanRooyen.
Wow, that's quite the introduction. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, Joyce, for joining us. You know, I know when I look at the optical industry, I think of you as sort of leading the way in fashion. I know when you post something with your shoes, and I'm always like, I'm digging it, Joyce. It's really, really cool. But, you know, within minutes of meeting you, someone can probably guess you're in fashion and optical. And that comes back to, you know, working with your dad. Can you tell us a little bit about that back in Alberta?
Oh, yeah. My dad was the only optical lab in the small town I grew up in, Medicine Hat, Alberta. So we did all of the finishing work for all of optical stores and optometry practice there. I was drafted into the lab when I was like 15 and never really left. So I always tell people it's genetic, not my fault. But it's an honor to have learned from my dad. I still love being able to share my work experiences with him and have him understand what he's retired now, and he always tells me that I know more than he ever did, but I would not be here without him.
Yeah, and you know what? You've probably brought some of that art to the optical industry. You know, you've got that science and art, and you know how does that define you? The art piece, the fashion piece.
Oh gosh, I don't know who I would be without kind of being able to express myself. And I must admit, I was late to the whole fashion world. I didn't really come into my fashion style till I was, 35, 40 years old. So it was a process, and it really does make me relatable, I think, to a lot of people, but also lets them know that you can be who you are no matter what you do.
And I think that's one area you can up your game in fashion, right? You can get coached in fashion too. I know, you know, my wife would say, wow, she really, you know, had a big project when she married me to kind of up my game. But, you know, it's really cool. And glasses and eyewear can be a big part of, you know, what you're saying about yourself in fashion.
A huge part, actually. It's the one thing everybody notices right off the top because it's framing your eyes. And you speak through your eyes. That's how you get to know and make connections with people. So they're a way to show who you are without saying a word. It's a huge part of your fashion style.
Yeah, you know, that's sort of even that nonverbal language that we're speaking, like you say, with your eye language, and you're communicating, and people are looking at your eyes. You know,
Absolutely.
They're looking through your glasses at your eyes. So, you know, let's make sure you have the anti-glare coating and they're nice and clean, smudge-free, you know, that type of thing. So one quick lesson that you say you got from your father, what sticks with you today?
Oh, that's an easy one. Work hard, be kind. Easy peasy. I wouldn't be here without his work ethic. I think we adopt a lot of the work ethics of our baby boomer parents just because they had to really work hard to get to where they were. And they had to be really good at what they did. And my dad instilled that in me early on, and I still live that today.
Yeah, I love that. Keep grinding, kids. Keep grinding. Work hard like your parents showed you how. I sound like an old geezer, but I love it. Hey, listen, those formative years, you were managing a 4 OD practice, and then you kind of switched gears, Joyce. You went into public speaking and training. What kind of made you switch from, kind of working in the grind to kind of getting out there and teaching others how to do it?
It was a sales rep, believe it or not, a frame sales rep. So I was managing a gallery for a busy practice, and it was intuitive to me as to what I needed to do. And I didn't realize, because I didn't take any lessons or learn from anyone. So I just was doing what I was doing. And a frame rep said to me, "You should teach this to other people." And I literally laughed at them because I had never really thought about that before. But it kind of stuck with me, and it kind of niggled around in the back of my brain for quite a while. And I came home and I talked to my boyfriend at the time, and this person said this to me. "Do you think I could do this?" And he's like, "Sure. Have you ever played with PowerPoint before?" And I'm like, "Well, no, what's PowerPoint?" So he had a computer with PowerPoint on it, and I spent that evening just playing around, and by 1 o'clock in the morning, I had 53 slides created.
Well, there you go. It's pretty intuitive nowadays, right? You can do it. You can learn. And the cool thing about learning something new is we can just Google it or watch a YouTube video. I want to talk a little bit about when patients or customers come into an eyewear gallery and choose a frame. Sometimes there's a lot of anxiety associated with that they're scared or worried. I heard it's it's up there sometimes with buying a house or looking at a new house, that trying on glasses can be really anxiety producing. What are your thoughts?
I agree. As a dispenser, I can't tell you how many times I heard I hate picking out glasses. And my response to that was, well, that's fine, because I love it. You're in good hands with me. But it's a huge purchase for someone. And it's something, again, that everybody sees you have to live with for 2.5, 3 years. And it's a lot of money to spend for somebody who doesn't understand all that goes into creating a pair of glasses for them. So that uncertainty is a very common concern with people choosing eyewear, for sure.
And so let's say a customer chooses a pair of glasses, puts them on, and you're thinking, "Oh, dang, you ugly, man." What are you going to do? What do you say to that? Do you just go do you take them off and go, no? Or do you if they love it, they love it?
It's a little of both, to be honest. I can't hide my face. So if I don't like something, it shows. But for the most part, I'm fairly diplomatic, and I ask them what they love about it. Even if I don't like it, your job is to empower that person to be who they are and be able to express that in their glasses. So you can't choose what they decide to wear, other than you brought the science up earlier, right? The lenses and how that all works together definitely comes into play. And that's all about educating your patients so that they're more aware of what goes into creating a pair of glasses. But for the most part, it is about fine-tuning what they want and reading between the lines a little bit to guide them to the perfect pair for them.
Yeah, and the fit is so important. A lot of people don't, maybe if they're not in the optical industry, they may not realize, a couple millimeters here and there on fitting the lenses in can really impact your vision, can impact the thickness of your lenses. So the lens piece is a really important conversation. Now, I wanted to ask you, Joyce, do you recommend talking about those lenses first or picking the frame first?
Ooh, that's a tough call. I'm a pick the frame first person just because that's what I get excited about. But if you think about it from the patient's perspective, the frame is what they're shopping for. They don't shop for lenses, right? There's a catch-22 there, though, because if you talk about lenses, because they tend to be the most expensive part of a pair of glasses, I mean, as they should, that's how you see your world. If you talk about lenses first, that sometimes can change how much they have in their mind to spend on a frame. And they end up compromising and then not being as happy with their purchase as they could be. So I do tend to start with frame first so they're excited about what they've chosen and getting them and going out and presenting this new face to the world. And then the lens discussion happens a little bit more naturally because you've also built that connection and that relationship with them and you've gotten to know them a little bit better. So you know how to explain things in a way that will help them understand the important part of a pair of glasses, which is the lenses.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. I know there's always this bias that comes into choosing frames. When we have buyers that pick the frames that are going to be on the board. And, you might have optical stores close to each other, optometry stores close to each other, and they say this one line can't sell and it's the best seller at another line because there's passion from the opticians and dispensers there that really love that line. So it's quite intriguing, that sort of bias piece where the eyewear consultant can really impact, what the purchase is because they're so, trusted in their impressions of what looks good on you. I know we played this, ugly frame bingo before. You ever heard of that?
No.
So ugly frame bingo is when some of the frames haven't been sitting there for a while. We're like, are these ugly frames? And they're not really, but they're different styles or different colors. And then all of a sudden, when you start trying them on people end up liking them because you just had a bias that was not your frame for you, but in fact it was the frame for someone else. So when sometimes we want to, sort of get people trying on some different lines of frames because, Joyce, how many frames does the average optometry practice have?
That's a good question. It kind of depends on how many patients they see in a day. We usually go by number of exams to determine that. However, it also depends on area, so that's not a cut and dried answer. If you were starting a practice, I would probably suggest 450 to 500 frames. But as your patient base grows, you can add on to that, depending on what your patients are looking for and what lines you want to represent your practice out in the world.
Yeah, and in some cases, some of my offices, we have over 1,000 frames. So they can be a massive selection, and sometimes it can be confusing with so many options. It's almost too many options. So what are your thoughts about dressing someone and you bringing the frames to them based on what just determining what their styles are, what their color preference, even their color palettes and, sort of any thoughts about that?
Yeah, the first thing I do when I help somebody choose glasses is I actually analyze their complexion because what they wear is secondary. It's if the eyewear matches with their complexion, it'll go with all they wear in their wardrobe. So you can either be warm skin tone or a cool skin tone, and that will help me determine what colors would look best on you first. And then I look at their face shape, of course, because we want to balance the face shape with the eyewear. Opposites attract with glasses and frames, or glasses and faces, sorry. If you've got a really round face, you'd want something with a little more angles and vice versa. Now, in fashion, rules are made to be broken. So that's not a hard and fast thing. I have friends that have really round faces that wear round frames and they own it. So it really is all about getting to know that person. I sometimes like to give my patients that experience of me being their personal shopper. So I'll have them sit and I'll bring them a curated selection of eyewear if that's kind of what they're looking for. But I also like to walk them through the gallery with me and I get them to point out what jumps out at them off the boards. And that gives me a really good starting point. And I again, have those conversations. What made you choose this frame? What made you reach for it? Was it the color? Was it the style? Tell me more about that so that I can choose the perfect frame for you.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And I also think you got to figure out, who your customer is. Are they someone like you who really, loves to shop, loves to browse, knows what you're looking for? Or do they want a consultative process? Do they want some advice? Do they want to be helped? Sometimes people, if you say, can I help you? People will often say no, even though they actually do want some help. And so I think positioning yourself as an expert, explaining some pieces of what is what and why these frame lines or this designer, having some background story about your product offering is a really good way to get in the door as the expert. So we encourage our team to kind of learn a little bit of the nuances about materials. When you were telling me about your frame, Joyce, you talked about the material. It's wood and you could customize it. That's a compelling story. So I think the little storytelling piece, you could teach our team around that. So is that part of your passion of training and speaking is, getting our teams to tell more stories and be more effective at picking frames?
That's part of it. Absolutely. We shop emotionally and stories resonate in the brain in a completely different way than facts or statistics. And it's really hard for those of us who've been in the industry for a long time to get rid of that industry speak that we rely on all the time when we help our patients and realize that it's it's the heart, not the head, that we have to speak with some of our patients. There are some that come in with schematic drawings of what they want their lenses to do for them. And then that's the fact-based patient that you have to help with. And you can show off your knowledge with them, and they love that. But the majority of people just want to shop for something that they're not sure what they need or what they want or what it does. So being able to create that excitement in them changes the experience from a sales experience to a consultation, a personalized, tailored consultation. And that's what really can set a practice apart.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. I'm thrilled to share an exciting new resource for professionals in the eye health industry, Eye Care Collective. Eye Care Collective is redefining collaboration and growth in our industry. Whether you're a clinic owner, optician, or an eye care professional, this platform empowers you with the tools you need to streamline your operations and elevate your success. As a member, you'll enjoy the benefits of consolidated billing, access to competitive pre-negotiated discounts, and programs tailored to support the unique needs of your practice. If you're ready to amplify your impact in the world of eye care, visit www.eyecarecollective.ca and find out how Eye Care Collective can support your journey to success. You probably do a good job of capturing contact lens sales after seeing a patient. But what happens when they use up their initial supply? Yes, your patients love you, but at refill time, they're probably just taking the path of least resistance to restock their lenses, going online or to the big box stores. These missed opportunities add up to tens of thousands of dollars leaking out of your business. That's where Auto comes in. Auto allows you to be that path of least resistance. Auto is the easiest way for eye care practices to stay engaged with patients and offer them a frictionless way to order their contact lenses and dry eye products from you, rather than from your competitors. Timely refill reminders and one-click reorders offer patients an unbeatable purchasing experience. And on the back end, Auto is integrated directly with your suppliers to allow for uber-efficient order management and fulfillment, saving valuable staff time. Over 600 clinics across Canada and the U.S. are already using Auto to reclaim lost sales and simplify their workflow. Want to learn more? Check out their website at autooptics.io. That's OTTO optics.io. Sell more, do less with Auto. You know, you said playing bass has made you a better teacher. How so?
Very much so, actually. I like to be good at what I do right away, like every single adult learner on the planet. And learning how to play a musical instrument really challenged me a lot to be okay with not being good at something. And I'm not going to lie, I'm still not very good at not being good at something. But it's a fun way to do that when you're playing a musical instrument. But it really gave me an insight into the people that I teach. And that it brought me back to their perspective, not knowing what I know. And it really made me a more considerate patient trainer, knowing that they want to be good, but they need help to get there and increase that confidence in themselves. And that's huge when it comes to training.
And you've had a great experience, like a real breadth of experience in teaching and training from the Canadian Optometric Assistants course, and you transitioned there to corporate training at Hoya and I Recommend, and you've taught, you know, students, optometrists, optometric assistants, and clinic managers. You know, what about different learning styles? You know, how do you impact learning based on the style someone wants to learn or is best at learning at?
That's a really good question, and it's a really big challenge, and it's really topical right now, actually. Everybody learns in a different way, and a good instructor will recognize that and be able to tailor their program. When we create a training program, and I recommend, we really try to take into considerations the different types of learners. So we have a variety of ways to learn, whether that be online, whether that be in person, whether that be one-on-one. There's also people that have to be up and moving in order to learn. We just did our regional training this week here in Ontario, and we did a front desk breakout where you didn't sit down for the entire course. You were up and moving and sharing ideas, and it was the energy in the room completely shifted. And when you're learning with people in the same position as you are that can identify with you, you learn as much from each other as you learn from the instructor in the room. And that boosts their confidence, letting them know they know more than they think they do. So learning in different ways is really crucial to retaining the information.
No, 100% agree. And I also think, that being humble to know that you don't know anything, and that's okay. If you're starting from scratch, we all started from scratch, and you might have multiple questions and have to do it over and over again. So what are your thoughts about the sort of what I call the deep end method of training, where we just throw you into the fire to do things after, watching a few times and then coaching you up with a mentor right there. So kind of getting into it, really some of our team needs to be kind of pushed and encouraged to say, you've got it. We're going to let you do it now. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's good in some ways, but it does depend on the person to some degree. I often have people send their newer employees to me like on their first and second day, and they're not ready for training at that point. They have no context. They don't have anything to match it up to. And it's much better for them to observe and learn, like you said, Trevor, in order for them to see what goes on, in order for them to have that connection to what they're learning, so they can visualize how they can actually implement what they're learning. So not rushing it, making sure it happens in a way that's in bite-sized pieces so they learn bits at a time. If you try to shove it all into their heads, they're not going to retain any of it. And varying the methods of learning, like we just talked about, having them learn some basic stuff online and then build on that with some hands-on training. Having a mentor in the practice is huge. It's huge. Now, it has to be the right mentor. Not everybody is made to teach other people. So you'd have to have the right person to be able to do that with your newer employees. But it's also about challenging your current, more experienced team members in order for them to get new skills, and teaching them how to train other people is a great way to do that.
Yeah, 100%. When would you send a new hire to more advanced training with you, for instance, or maybe not advanced training, but, organized training away from the office, out of office training? When?
I would say probably a month in. Give them a month in the practice to shadow every single position in the practice, including the doctor. Have them go through an eye exam, have them sit through every single pretest, have them experience absolutely everything in the practice for a month before you send them to me.
Yeah. And you know what I think, we all can learn. We can learn from a new hire too. I think that's really important. One of the key messages from the owner to a new hire is, hey, take a look around. If you think we could be doing something better, hey, we'll entertain that. So you've got a new set of eyes, and we love your input. So just that's a good little pearl there that I would suggest. Joyce, I wanted to talk a little bit about, presentations and a little bit of all the information that is out there for whether you're an optometric assistant or an optician or an eye doctor. There's just so much information to retain. When I was recently at a course and we talked about the working memory limits that we have in our brain, almost like a RAM. Like, what can you recall without having to look up? And it's limited given the scope or the breadth of information that we need. And as each prescription's unique. It's like a fingerprint almost. It's very, based on the differences between where your pupils sit, how it sits on your face, or what we call panoscopic tilt, and all of these parameters around your prescription. You can't wear your friend's glasses, generally speaking, without getting a headache because it's unique to them. So, how do you deal with this? Just so much information.
Oh, again, it's all about bite-sized pieces, one thing at a time, and you build on it. I do want to kind of just go back for a second to your tip about listening to your newer employees, if you'd let me. I always tell brand new people in the industry that they have a superpower that those of us who've been in the industry for a long time have completely lost. And that's the patient's perspective. We don't know what it's like to walk into a practice and not know what goes on anymore. So if what their learning or what they hear is going on in the practice doesn't make sense to them as a new team member, it probably doesn't make sense to the patients either. So having that superpower and holding on to it for as long as you can is really important. And a way to do that, to hang on to that patient's perspective, is measurably slowing down how they learn. I know that you want to get your team members up to speed as fast as possible because you need them to be, to make the practice a success. But in order to create a long-term, loyal employee, a team member that wants to be there, you need to help them learn in a way that doesn't overwhelm them so they want to quit. It's really, really a balancing act there.
One of the cool things, thanks for that, Joyce. One of the cool things that we recently did is we created a training journey for each of our team members. So with a budget overlying that, so we know and they know where this year is going to take them. Yeah. And also we have a talent matrix. So we have skills with each job description and how they rank on those skills. And of course, if they're just learning, they're just entry level, that's okay. But at least they have what skills we're really looking for. So as they can progress in their position, and we have that for each of the, front desk, pre-testers, dispensers. So, I wanted to just a little bit go back to information overload a little bit more and talk about the style of online versus in-person training. What's your preference, and how do you manage that piece?
That's a really great question. And again, very topical. I will always say in-person learning trumps online. And the reason why I say that is you get energy from the people around you that makes you want to learn. The people around you challenge you to learn, and they also build up your confidence at the same time. And you can relate to people who are in the same position and same maybe anxieties or worries or concerns or excitement as you. There is a place for online learning, absolutely. It's great for getting the basic knowledge down. It's great for specialty topics. It creates a base of knowledge you can build on slowly and gradually. The younger generation actually really prefers learning online, so it caters to the different ways that people learn as well. So I think a true optimum way to learn is a combination of online learning and in-person learning.
Yeah, totally. I think that interaction piece that you spoke about is really key, right? Where you can kind of role play and you can kind of get real-time feedback. I think, again, that feedback mechanism, wherever you're training, the feedback piece is so important, and just the culture to be able to accept feedback. I think the openness to accept feedback will enhance your ability to gain skills and learn and not be afraid. This whole kind of anxiety around, I got to always look good, isn't really, productive when you're trying to take in information and know that, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to forget things, but your teammates should help you, guide you, be open to questions along the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No question.
Yeah, I want you to talk a little bit about this online platform that you've helped work on at I Recommend, called the I Recommend Academy. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that fits into the future training of optometry?
Absolutely. It's pretty robust at this point. We've had it for about a year and a half. Actually, April will be 2 years almost. But it's great for people who want to learn when they want to learn, right? You can't always have a trainer come into your practice exactly when you need them to be there. And there's not always training available in person when you need that to happen. So this fills the gap, and people can learn at their own pace because you can start and stop whenever you need to. We've got everything on there from the basics. We've got some more advanced stuff. Our supplier partners have provided a ton of resources, not only on their products, but on things like selling skills and technology. So it's a really robust platform, and we use it to enhance some of our in-person trainings. So for example, if you take one of our programs called OD Business, which teaches practice owners how to run a business, that we actually get you to do some learning online first, so you have the base knowledge, So when you come to the training, we can build on that and you can share and network with your peers to learn how other people do things and not have to worry about absorbing all of the basic stuff all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that combination is brilliant. For my team, we put them through I Recommend Academy online, give them some base training, and then some in-person training. And then what we've added this year as well is an auditing process. So when we let them into the wild to kind of deal with patients one-on-one, we have a mentor that comes and follows them, a few months later, just to make sure that any of the nuances, the little pieces are also trained up. We've also noted, to have our more experienced people train. I think a lot of times you'll have someone who's just new and just been trained now trying to be the trainer, and sometimes information's missed. So I think, investing in that training, in that auditing process, in professional development, especially in areas like dry eye and vision therapy, where there's a lot of knowledge that it takes and it's easy to lose it. Just having practice days, having practice like the fire department, Wednesday afternoons, it's fire practice. I think we need to consider investing in that as our team is more professional. As well, another thought is a lot of optometric assistants, a lot of our staff and a lot of our optometric assistants, they want to learn, and they want to be challenged with some new knowledge. Sometimes they can get stuck in a rut, and we might lose them because we haven't invested in training. So, kudos to you, Joyce, for offering, that in-person training opportunity. And I know that you've even come to offices directly and done training inside their offices so they don't have to go away. How cool is that?
It's one of my favorite ways to do training, actually, because I can see them in their natural habitat and see the tools that they use and the environment they're using them in, and I can tailor the training so it's more impactful just for them. And it's pretty amazing to see kind of what I like to call the light bulb moments when they're like, oh, that's why we do that. It's pretty amazing. Can I ask you a question, Trevor? Do you find that, and I'm glad you brought this up, do you find that your team, when you invest in them with training, that they get excited about it and they actually become more loyal and you can retain them better?
Yeah, 100%. I think, if you take them along a path, and what I say to any new hire, I say, literally, you can learn anything and everything, and I'd love you to learn that. Granted, it's going to take some time. There's a lot of information. We don't want to rush you along the path, but there's nothing you can't learn here. And as you learn more, your compensation goes up and your value to the practice goes up. And so I think that piece, just letting them know that there's no hoarding information, there's no protecting that this is my job and this is not your job and you shouldn't know this. You got to cut that out of your culture right away. And so, it's retention too. I think training is a massive part of retention. And you just think of it for any one of us, training something new is exciting. It's scary, but once you go through it, it's kind of exciting. And you get a nice dinner and stay at a nice hotel and, get some cool stuff, some time with some of your peers away from the office. We think that's absolutely crucial to creating a, collegial fun environment. So I think training is one of those pillars of growing as a business, as an optometric practice, and it's just crucial to success.
It also lets your team know that you believe in them enough to invest in them getting better. That's one thing about this industry that I tell everybody who joins is you never, ever stop learning in this industry. And if that's scary for you, you need to get to terms with it or you're going to be left behind. And it's super important to let your team know that it is okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but part of my job as a trainer is to tell them that most of what they're doing, they're already awesome at. That's my favorite part of a trainer. I'm like, that was awesome. You got this down. You don't need me here. What am I here for? And it really kind of lifts them up and then makes them want to learn more. So validating their expertise, whether it be in the clinic with your more experienced team or whether it be a new team member who's joined you with transferable skills that they brought with them, they want to learn more and be better for you because you want to invest in them.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think the future of AI and training is? My son has been training a chat GPT. He calls it Rovert, which is Trevor backwards. And you can ask Rover some very interesting questions about optometry, and it answers like me, because he trained Rover to have the information that I would have, and it's hard to even trick Rover right now. I think it's pretty amazing. So what about an AI trainer? We make an AI Joyce.
You're more than welcome to try. Good luck with that. But I think there's a place for AI in learning and development. Absolutely, hands down. I think it can enhance what we do and make us better at what we do. I don't think it can replace the human connection. Not in any way, shape, or form in any world. You need to have that connection, especially with hands-on skills like adjusting a frame on somebody. AI can show you how to do it, but every face is different, every frame is different, every patient is different. There's no way for you to learn those skills just from AI. You need an in-person person, an actual human being, to help with some of those skills and to create that human connection.
No, I think that's well said, Joyce. And, what happens is, the reading of people's reactions, being able to pivot, your presentation style based on the feedback and even those nonverbal cues. AI is not going to give you that, and you need real-time experience with people who have the ability to get into a real conversation. I know, hey, let's face it, a lot of optometric assistants are, these are some sales jobs to some degree. They're selling glasses, and this is part of a optometric business. Yes, sure, we're in healthcare as well, but there's kind of the patient pivots to being a customer and picking in the optical gallery, the eyewear gallery, their frames, and they may choose to stay in the optometric setting, or they may not. And the skill and ability, the intuitiveness of the optician is so crucial to creating that opportunity to have that customer shop with you.
Absolutely. You have to read into patients' personality types. You have to read into between the lines of what they're scared about, what they're uncertain about, what they're anxious about, and let them know that they're not alone. And yet you need those skills. You have to build those skills up. I always tell people that we're sometimes in psychometry, because we have to be a psychologist but also in optometry at the same time. So it's a unique, really interesting career path that marries the science along with human nature and fashion, and it's just the coolest thing on the planet.
And I think, having honesty, like if you could have your customer really be honest with you, like I want a budget solution, or I want a fashion solution, or I want a multiple solution, or I'm open to whatever. If we could have like that really honest conversation, then I think we can find something for you with us, and not only find something that you're going to enjoy, but know that you've got me behind it to make sure you enjoy it. We phone every patient back that buys glasses from us to ensure their satisfaction. I think that after sales piece is so important for our optometric practices, because you think about something, you're wearing a frame a lot, it gets out of alignment, it needs adjustments. You probably need to adjust your frame more than you need to adjust your alignment on your car. Where are you going to go is where you bought your glasses. And who's most educated and expert at realigning your glasses is optometric practices.
Yep, absolutely. And being that trusted advisor where they wouldn't even think about going somewhere else. And it's not only the skills, it's your opinion. Like you said, being honest with them, if something works or it doesn't, and being able to tell them why it works or it doesn't. It's like your hairdresser. Well, for me in particular, I would never consider going to a different hairdresser because they help shape who I am and the image that I present to the world. I trust them implicitly with how I present. And we need to become that for our patients as well, where they wouldn't even think twice about going somewhere else because they know that they're in the best place already.
Yeah. No cheating on your hairdresser. No cheating on your optometry clinic. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Joyce, I wanted to go to one of our very popular segments. It used to be Better One or Better Two, but in this case, it's going to be Hot Takes. Okay, so we're going to shift gears into our Hot Takes segment, and I'm going to throw you some real-world scenarios, and I want to get your expert take. No holes barred. Okay. Just give it to me, okay? Ready?
Ready.
Scenario 1. A practice invests thousands in sales training for their team, but 3 months later, frame sales haven't increased at all. What do you think went wrong?
My go-to answer to that was the leader didn't participate in the learning. Learning has to start from the top. If the leader doesn't set expectations of why the training needs to happen, why they're asking the team to take the training, and that they're investing in them for the success of the practice as well as to grow them as team members, encouraging them along the way as they learn, and then following up with them afterwards to make sure they implement what they learned. Those three things leaders often fail to do. And they feel like the trainer should be the one to take all the responsibility to make sure their team has all the knowledge that they need. And then the learner has to take that knowledge and just run with it. Doesn't work. The leader has to be part of the training before, during, and after.
No, that's great advice. And I think I love what you said there, Joyce. It's about implementation, right? You can train all you want, but if you don't put that into practice, and that means a structured, rollout of what we've learned, and so I think that's really great. What should the optometry leader do before sending their team into training? Is there something that the owner should do beforehand?
Yes. Quite often I'll get some people in my training sessions that sit there with their arms crossed and they're not participating, and I could tell that they were told to be there. And when that happens, they feel like it's remedial training rather than enhancement training. And then they're not open to learning at all. So the skills go nowhere. If a leader sits a team member down before training and say, I want to invest in your success. I want to make you the best at what you do. I want you to be confident at what you do. You're already there. I just want to enhance those skills. I'm going to send you. You are so lucky. You've got this awesome opportunity to go to this session and learn more and bring that back to us and enhance everything we do here so that we're successful as a clinic and as a team. What do you think that's going to do to the person going to the training? They're going to want to learn. They're going to want to go back and implement and show them that the boss made the right decision in sending me here. But if none of that happens beforehand, the team member goes in not knowing what they're expected to bring back or why they were sent for training in the first place. And it doesn't get implemented. There's no accountability. There's no protocol like you had mentioned. And it's detrimental to them learning.
No, I think that's great advice, Joyce. Knowing why you're going to training and having the team that's getting training come back and present some of their learnings to the rest of the team so they can teach. Now the trainee becomes the teacher, the mentor, and train some of the other teams. So,
well, be careful with that. You're talking me out of a job there, Trevor. Stop
it. Well, if anybody knows you, Joyce, they would want Joyce in person in their office for training because she's superb and she brings a absolutely unique way of training with fashion and style and a great. I hope all of our listeners, at least if you've got the opportunity to attend one of your seminars or sessions, really goes and does that because it's entertaining and it's informative and you get engaged. So you do a fantastic job. I've seen you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, scenario number 2.
Okay, bring it on.
Yeah. Consider an optometrist who's been running a practice for 20 years, 30 years in my case. He's confident in his tried and true methods and is skeptical about the value of training. How would you address that?
That's a tough one. It is a scenario we face quite often as trainers where I call it being successful in spite of yourself. If you think they're okay the way they are, you're not going to be able to compete with really powerful players in the industry like Specsavers and LensCrafters and all of those other competitors that consistently and constantly train their teams to steal patients from you. And if you're just being okay, then you're just gonna have okay team members. you're not going to have the exceptional people that make you stand apart and make your patients want to return back to you.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Somebody asked me once, Joyce, well, when are you going to be happy? When are you going to be done? And I'm like, never. I am happy, but I'm never satisfied. And I think that's a big differentiator. You can be happy with how your team is performing, but know that there's always more to learn. There's always opportunity and of growth. And if you stop growing, you're going backwards. So I think that's a really great point, that we all should be investing in our teams in training and communicating that piece throughout our organizations. A learning organization becomes part of the culture as you onboard new people, but also those team members that have been there. You don't want them to stagnate. You want them to be excited about some of the new technology. The real cool thing, Joyce, in optometry, there's so many cool new things. There's something new happening all the time. I'm like, my mind's blown all the time with the new tech. I'm just so excited all the time. It's so cool, this profession that we're in. Okay, scenario number 3. You're working with a small independent practice, losing patients to a corporate chain, who shall be unnamed. They feel like they can't compete on price. What should they do?
Don't compete on price. If you compete on price, it's a race to the bottom. Who wants to be on the bottom? You have to look at why you're losing patients to less expensive places. And it's funny because I get this question a lot, and everybody assumes it's because they're cheaper. And quite often it's not because they're cheaper. Quite often it's because they got a better experience, or it's more convenient, or their friend told me to go there. The cost is not always the reason you lose to your competition. And my advice to the people losing people to your competition is find out what they're doing that's better than you, and make you more awesome than they are. You have to stand out in this industry in a way that makes people remember you. Even being better than your competition isn't good enough. You have to be different from your competition. And if you want to compete on price, that just makes you the same. You have to be different to be memorable.
Well, that's an awesome soundbite there, Joyce. I mean, it's so true. I think sometimes it's the assumption that we're more expensive. They just assume. They look around and they look at our beautiful optometric practices and our fancy equipment, and they say, wow, I'm just taking my prescription. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go to a big box. And we just don't even give them a quote. We don't give them a chance to buy from us. We don't give them an eyewear consultation. So one of the rules at Couch and Eye Care is everyone gets an eyewear consult in the eyewear gallery. You want to take your prescription away and shop somewhere else? You're most welcome. But we're going to give you a quote. We're going to let you know that we have single vision frame and lenses starting under $100. And we have boutique, cool, amazing, high-end premium solutions that could fit for you as well. So we got the full breadth, and it's really, you've got us as your guide. So making sure they know what the offering is at our optometric offices, I think is crucial to what, we call capture rates, and just making sure those patients shop with us. I think this whole movement of, buy local with buy Canadian is actually really good for our Canadian optometric practices, because this is an opportunity for your patient to support you in your local town, and you're supporting them by, spending your money back at the local businesses. So it's a really cool relationship that a lot of our optometrists, a lot of my colleagues, they're there out in their communities, they're giving back, and your patients really want to support you. They just need a reason, so give them one.
I also want to caution you against making price the automatic assumption. We often have that conversation with our patients where they say, I'm going to go to Costco, and we just assume it's because of price. And if we'd have that conversation based around our assumptions, but that's not the reason the patient's leaving us, then they have less respect for us and want to leave us even more. Find out why your patients are leaving. Ask them questions. That will help you be able to educate them on what makes you different and why they should stay with you, or at least give them the option to make that decision for themselves without assuming that it's always the lower priced option that they're worried about.
Thanks for that. That's great advice. I want to talk about standing out in a crowded market. So I know you've worked in high-end opticals and retail, and Fluevog, it's a high-end shoe brand. What are some of the best sales and customer lessons that you've heard from those industries that you go and train and teach about?
The one thing I liked about Fluevog, and I used to use this as an example all the time, is you feel like you're shopping with a friend. It's not a sales experience at all. I sit on the couch beside people I was helping them choose shoes with. We were chatting. The sales that I made were because they liked me as a person, not because of I knew everything it was to know about the shoes that I was trying to sell them. So it's about connecting, but it's also about finding a way to showcase your practice personality so that you are able to express your personal brand to your patients with the right people that connects with your patients in a different way. It's a really interesting dynamic right now, like you said, with shopping local and being able to support the people that support your communities. Being vocal about those things is what makes patients want to come and see you. And again, watching your judgments. I even found myself at Fluevog judging patients as they walked through the door. Like, I'm just going to sit here on the desk because this person's not going to buy anything. The store that I worked at was in the Distillery District in Toronto, so a very touristy area. It's a destination, so people don't just kind of walk by. But I can't tell you how many people that were on vacation bought shoes for me because I positioned it as the best souvenir you could possibly show off to everybody when you go back home. So it's all about watching those judgments, and the people that you don't think are going to spend the money often do. You just have to make it worth their while. You have to make them see why it's cool.
No, 100%. How can our optometry staff embrace that principle, that fashion story, when they're helping try on frames?
I'm going to bring it back to what you said earlier. It's all about the stories. You need to learn about your products. You need to be passionate about your products. Get your sales reps in and teach you. We often do that with contact lenses and technology and lenses for glasses. We get our sales reps come in and teach us all that stuff. But we never do that for frames, ever. And there are stories, there are materials that you can go on and on about. There is something special about the lines. And if you don't know that, then you can't sell them to your patients effectively. You need to know your products in and out for you to be passionate about them.
Yeah. I think, being memorable, like you say, is really cool. I know one of my recent guests, Dr. Ritesh Patel at CNBC in Toronto, he has this dispensing bar, this pickup bar, if you will, to make it special. He'll serve a coffee. And so you've got this really different kind of vibe, different experience. What are your thoughts? What are the best cool vibes and customer experiences you've seen out there in optical?
My favorite thing to see out in optical is when they cross-market with local businesses. So there's a couple ways that you can do that. And again, it's all about building community, right? So there was one office that partnered with a local coffee shop. So whenever, not that this ever happens, Trevor, but sometimes doctors run behind. Sometimes. So when that happens, you can give the patient a gift card to this local coffee shop to go have a coffee on you while they're waiting. And then they can cross-market you as well. I know optical stores that have cross-marketed with local boutiques, and they have this mannequin in the middle of the gallery dressed in different outfits from local boutiques around them, and they style them with sunwear, and they lend their eyewear to the local boutiques to use in their window shops. This sense of community and shopping local is a huge, powerful tool that you can use to build up each other, and that gets patients in to see you that wouldn't normally know that you were there.
Well, that's great advice. I love it. This cross-marketing opportunity, that's there in every community. So go get it. Get out there too. Get out there. Get your team out there. Go visit these shops together, maybe, do a little shopping trip. That sounds like a great idea, Joyce. Joyce, next time I'm with you, you and I are going to just go shopping and we're going to buy each other something, just for fun.
Deal. I'm in.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. You have a wealth of experience in the front lines of industry, and you've worked in so many clinics. What are the ones that are just thriving? Like, I'm sure you feel it right away. You probably know, wow, these guys have it dialed in. This practice is going to be, kicking butt, and some are just surviving. So, how can you tell? What's the differentiators?
Oh, it's the people. Hands down, no question, it's the people. When you walk into a store, any store, and you can feel that people want to be there. that they like each other. They're laughing. They come up to you right away. They greet you with a smile. It's totally the people that retain patients. Absolutely. You can train skills, but you can't teach people to be nice to each other. You have to have the right people, no question. And that's why instead of using the word staff, I want to get rid of that word completely out of this industry. You don't have staff as a practice owner. Downton Abbey has staff. You don't have staff. You have a expert team that supports each other to enhance the success of the practice. You have a team, not staff. And it's the people that make you successful.
No, 100%. I mean, and you got to feel that, right away. Got to feel the vibe. And, hopefully you're bringing that to your optometric business, a great vibe. And that means investing in people. That means finding the right people. It doesn't matter. Like you say, you might have the most experienced optician, but doesn't have the vibe. And you might have a newcomer that has the vibe. So hire for that, hire for personality, right? As you'd say, Joyce.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the people who want to be there also want to learn. So being able to invest in them and let them know they're important enough to you to do that will keep them with you, and they will become the personality of your practice. And they're going to want to learn the stories and get passionate about what you sell and bring their own style and skills to their interactions with your patients. And that's what's going to get talked about outside your practice.
Awesome. Joyce, I want you to spill the tea for our listeners here. I want you to tell us what's the absolute worst eyewear gallery situation frame that you've seen out there in all your travels. No names, but I just want you to tell our listeners, like, man, what made you shake your head and think, come on, man?
This is going to sound really cliche, but the first thing that popped into my mind when you said that was Hakeem. And I hate saying names, but they could have had the best people in there. And you walk by and you don't want to go in because it's overwhelming. It's clinical. It's cold. It's all white and silver and mirrors. And it doesn't look personal in any way. And I've seen independent practices do this as well. We've all walked down the street and seen optical stores that are stuck in 1982. And that doesn't inspire confidence in you at all. And you don't have to be super sleek and modern either. You just have to be inviting and unique in your own way that's going to draw people in, that makes people want to peek in the door.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to talk a little bit about colors and the lenses. I know you wear a lot of colorful frames, you wear colorful shoes, you've got colorful hair. What about the lenses and, fashion tints, mirror tints? Are you into the colors? I know there's some photochromic, this lenses that react to different lights that change colors. What are your thoughts about mixing and matching some of the lens colors and the tints and the mirrors that are out there?
Oh, I think that's a really great way to customize a pair of glasses for someone. And I don't know if you watched the Oscars recently, but there were a lot of people on the red carpet with tinted lenses. It was fascinating. So it's kind of a throwback to the 70s when that was a big thing. Oh my gosh, I remember working with my dad in the lab. He made me do all the tinting because I was the grunt. But the gradient tints, which means it's darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. Or, Trevor, you probably remember this. The lenses that were blue gradient on top and pink gradient on the bottom, right? From the 80s. That stuff's coming back. And it's really cool to be able to customize something. And that's the perfect way to sell a second pair to someone. It's the perfect way. Because if they might work in a bank and not want to wear them to work, but like me, play in a band on the weekends, right? Having them have that eyewear wardrobe and lenses are part of that makes your patients think about lenses in a different way. My favorite photochromic lens are the blue lenses. I love the blue lenses. They look really, really cool in the perfect pair of glasses. And I'm dying to try the ruby one, the brand new color in the photochromic lenses. It's my next one.
Yeah, I'm wearing the blue Transitions S right now in my Tom Ford frames, and I do have the ruby red. So cool. You can really make that. People notice. There's something different. I know Transitions is coming out with a mid color they're calling Color Touch. So it already has a tint and it's photochromic. It has a mid tint inside. So this is kind of an interesting, fashion trend for sure. And I think that's cool. Joyce, you help us, understand what are the red carpet fashion trends and how we can bring that to our optometric practices. So I think that's important, staying tuned with what are the stars wearing? What's the cool fashion piece? And your reps can really help you there. The people who sell you frames that you sell to your customers, your patients, they can really advise you. So I encourage you to, learn about that and what's the trend line.
Yeah, absolutely. And think about how these tints can help our patients that have light sensitivity as well, right? We have multifaceted use for this cool new technology. Not only that it's fashion, which is where my heart is, but my head tells me that I can really make a difference in somebody's life and how they see their world and how comfortable and confident they are as they do that from a health perspective with some of these tints, as well as the fashion side.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about giving feedback because, you've had to coach people and you've got a team that you're managing and you also go into optometric practice and you give feedback. And I found, sometimes it depends for me how that comes across. I've had people cry. I'd like to say I didn't make them cry. You cried on your own. But, some people, they get emotional when it's feedback time. And how do you manage that by still getting across your message?
This is a tough question for me because I actually am struggling with this myself. I'm a new leader with my team, and I want to be the best leader that I can be for them. And part of that is giving feedback, and that's really hard for me because I just want to be nice to everybody all the time. So what I'm trying to do is give them constant feedback. Don't save it up for like year-end reviews or those quarterly meetings you have. Have bi-weekly touch bases with your team and address things as they come up so that they can fix things early rather than save it all up and just do it all at once. Because then they're thinking back 3 months ago and not remembering what they did. And it gives them the opportunity to work on things on a gradual basis, and as well as let them know, again, that you're invested in their success, and that's why we're giving this feedback. Along with, of course, giving them kudos for what they do really well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I my message there, Joyce, is, just because you see something wrong doesn't mean you have to say it every time. What about seeing something right? Because generally, your staff, your team.
Thank you.
Your team. I'm learning. Your team members are doing a lot of great things right. And are you watching for that? Or are you only watching for the things that maybe be off a little bit? So find the good, praise the good, and every once in a while, a little constructive piece. They're more open to it because they're also knowing that, the touch points that they're not always negative. They're like, you're doing a great job, and this is what I see, and why you're doing a great job. So I think that's awesome, and thank you for your advice on that. I want to sort of wind it up here, Joyce. But if you had the power to send a message to everyone in the optometry field, and I'm going to tell you right now, everyone in the optometry field is listening to Optometry Unleashed, so you have the power. You tell us. What would you say to everyone in the optometric industry?
I would say be bold. Now and the future is not for the faint-hearted. We've got really good technology. We've got really good opportunities to make huge differences in our patients' life. We can help our patients see themselves in a new, unique, crazy, weird, wonderful way that they might not have thought they could do before. We've got access to great team members that we can build up, but we can't stand out and support independent optometry without being bold. So just be bold.
I love it. Thanks, Joyce. Is there anything you want to ask me? Is there anything you want to cover?
I do, actually. So you started this conversation by asking me about the best piece of advice I got from my dad. I know you're a dad. To people in the optical industry. What would be your best piece of advice you would give somebody who wanted to go into optometry?
Yeah, I think if you want to go into optometry, make sure you're going into optometry for the right reasons. And the right reasons are that you have a passion to care for people. You love people. It's a people industry, right? You've got people on your team, you've got patience, and a curiosity to learn every day. You're curious about your patient. You know, what are they interested in? What can they teach you? You become friends. So you need to love people. I get my bucket filled often going to work because they're thanking me for seeing them. They're paying me for seeing them, but I'm like, wow, this was awesome. And, I tell you a quick story, Joyce. My last patient yesterday, okay? She's 92. Her and her husband, they're the cutest. They're both 92. They want to live to about 110. And she's got a little back issue. She's got some canes, and she's telling me, that she tried different medications for her pain. But what worked the best was Bombay Gin. Not just Bombay Gin, but the sapphire version of Bombay Gin. It has something in there that really helps with pain. And I said, Rosemary, listen, I'm going to have to test that out myself.
Well, Trevor, next time we're together when we're shopping, I am a huge gin snob. We will go gin tasting as well.
Listen, we'll kill the pain of the expensive purchases by having a gin and tea, a gin and tonic before we go shopping. It won't hurt to shop. We'll just treat ourselves. It's going to be the best shopping experience ever. So I want to thank you, Joyce, for taking the time to join us on Optometry Unleashed and sharing your expertise in the optical industry. It's amazing and heartwarming for me to see you grow as a leader, as a teammate, and someone who's sharing the knowledge and making us all better. So
thank you.
Thank you for listening to Optometry Unleashed. Until next time, I'm Dr. Trevor Miranda. We'll see you soon.